iCkEdMeL. Sorry, like I'm coming down with something. There was a press conference. I heard about this story. About this Jewish person that was killed at this rally, pro-Israel, pro-Palestine rally, and this guy. Let me show his picture. His name is Paul Kessler, 69 years old. Here's a picture right here. I guess that was like moments before he got attacked. And so supposedly somebody hit him in the back of his head, I think, with a microphone. I don't know if they caught the person. This happened 3:20 p.m. Sunday in California, Thousand Oaks. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. The medical examiner's office determined the cause of death was blunt force head injury and the manner of death homicide. And I saw somewhere on Twitter that they had posted a screenshot of somebody that they believed it was a certain person. Oh yeah. The image. Another video appears to show pro-Palestinian demonstrators continue to shout slogans and wave flags after Kessler was injured, with police cars and ambulance yards away. The same clip shows blood spattered across a homemade sign that said "Stop bombing babies and families." All right, so let's check this out.
Which could
Let's start right there. There we go. Yeah, it's getting crazy.
Good morning, everyone. As I stated, good morning, everyone. As I stated earlier, my name is Dean Worthy, Captain and Public Information Officer for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office.
So they're talking at the same time?
I'd like to thank you all for coming to this press conference on such short notice. Ideally, we'd like to have had this press conference last night, but it would have been logistically impossible to provide the public with accurate and timely information. Today, we hope to be as transparent as possible, but understand this is an active and ongoing investigation, and we will not provide any information which could potentially compromise the integrity of that investigation. I want you all to know we sincerely value your role in delivering messages to our community. In today's case, I'm not only speaking of our community here in Ventura County, rather I'm referring to communities all across the world. We have provided media releases for you all with contact information for our investigative unit and our public information officer team. To members of the public who are at the event, if you have videos or photos of the incident, we encourage you to provide those to our office. You can remain anonymous if you choose to. We have established user-friendly links to upload the footage.
Oh, sorry. The hell?
If you choose to. We have established.
All right, they use a different link. Amazing. Just saw this somewhere.
Of insults, and we
Press conference. Okay, we use this one. So we're 6 minutes in.
Good morning, everyone. As I stated,
I'd like to thank Thousand Oaks medical personnel and paramedics from the Ventura County Fire Department and American Medical Response. Soon after, 2 patrol sergeants along with 2 additional deputies responded to the scene. At 3:22 p.m., one of our patrol sergeants arrived on scene. At 3:24 p.m., 2 additional patrol deputies arrived on scene. The sergeant contacted the victim, identified as 69-year-old Paul Kessler, a Thousand Oaks resident, who was lying on the ground. Mr. Kessler was conscious and responsive. The sergeant observed what he saw was bleeding from the head and mouth. Medical personnel from the Ventura County Fire Department arrived on the scene and began providing aid to Mr. Kessler. Mr. Kessler was then transported to a local hospital by paramedics for advanced medical treatment. Mr. Kessler remained conscious while being transported to the hospital. The suspect was identified, willingly remained at the scene, and was interviewed by deputies. The suspect was cooperative and indicated he was involved in an altercation with Mr. Kessler. The suspect further stated that he was one of the reporting parties who called 911 requesting medical attention for Mr. Kessler. Several witnesses were contacted at the northwest corner of the intersection where the Shell gas station is located, and they were interviewed. These witnesses providing conflicting statements about what the altercation and who
Conflicting statements. Huh.
the aggressor was.
Wow. So are they trying to protect themselves, protect their own?
Some of the witnesses were pro-Palestine, while others were pro-Israel.
Wow.
During the investigation at the scene, deputies determined that the altercation with Mr. Kessler, he fell backward and struck his head on the ground. What exactly transpired prior to Mr. Kessler falling backward isn't crystal clear right now. At 4:02 p.m., a deputy and sergeant arrived at Los Robles Hospital where Mr. Kessler was being treated. Soon after, the deputies still at Westlake Boulevard and Thousand Oaks cleared the scene. Mr. Kessler was listed as being in critical condition by Los Robles Hospital staff. However, he was still conscious when contacted by deputies at the hospital. At 5:32 p.m., the deputies at the hospital cleared the call and documented the incident pending follow-up investigation by detectives from the Thousand Oaks Police Department. On November 6th, at approximately 2:43 a.m., the Sheriff's Communications Center received a call from the hospital staff in reference to the earlier incident involving Mr. Kessler. At 2:53, a patrol deputy and sergeant arrived at the hospital and were told that Mr. Kessler had succumbed to his injuries. At 3 a.m., investigators from the Major Crimes Bureau were notified of the circumstances surrounding Mr. Kessler's death, and they immediately launched an investigation. The Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office was also notified and sent an investigator to the hospital. Mr. Kessler's body was later transported to the Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office, where a subsequent autopsy was performed. I will defer any comments regarding the autopsy results to Chief Medical Examiner for the Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office, Dr. Young, who will provide a statement shortly. Yesterday afternoon, detectives obtained a search warrant for the suspect and the suspect's residence. At 4:58 p.m., detectives conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle driven by the suspect in the city of Simi Valley. The suspect was detained and until the completion of the search warrant, and he was released at 6:15 p.m. During the detention of the suspect, detectives executed a search warrant at the suspect's residence in the city of Moorpark. I cannot comment on the results of that search warrant as the investigation is ongoing. Investigators have not ruled out the possibility of a hate crime, and this is being investigated as a homicide. Investigators from the Sheriff's Major Crimes Bureau and the Thousand Oaks Investigations Bureau are committed to continuing to locate and interview witnesses to the event or individuals who are present or nearby that might have helpful information to provide. It is our understanding that Mr. Kessler, a U.S. citizen who practices the Jewish faith, was at the event supporting Israel. The suspect in this case is a 50-year-old who resides in Moorpark and was at the intersection advocating for Palestine.
It's interesting too, man. He's like grown adult doing this kind of ish.
We understand that the war in Israel and Gaza has led to an increase in hateful and threatening rhetoric, and we want to assure the Muslim and Jewish communities that we stand with them both during this difficult time. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office remains committed to protecting the rights and safety of all members of our community, regardless of their race, religion, or ethnicity. To this end, we have increased patrols around mosques and our Muslim community centers and Jewish houses of worship. We also working closely with our religious leaders in our community to provide support and assistance as needed. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office and law enforcement in general play a critical role in preserving people's fundamental right to peaceably assemble and in facilitating demonstrators' safety and security as they exercise their First Amendment rights. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office is requesting assistance from public regarding the ongoing investigation. Anyone who witnessed or has knowledge of the incident or who was present at the demonstration is encouraged to contact our agency. We have provided the media with a release with the contact information for our investigative unit as well as our press information officer team. Those who wish to remain anonymous can certainly do so by contacting Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or 8477. Those who may be in possession of video footage or photographs of this incident can also remain anonymous by using the link we've provided to the media here today. During this time, we urge you to remain calm, peaceful, and patient. We understand that you may have questions and concerns, but we ask that you allow us to conduct our investigation, and we will provide updates as soon as we can. We also ask that you refrain from spreading rumors or spreading misinformation on social media or other platforms, as that can not only hinder our investigation, but it can cause unnecessary panic in our community. In conclusion, I want to reiterate that safety and well-being of our members of our community are the utmost concern to us. We will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that everyone, no matter your faith or religion, feels safe. We appreciate your cooperation and support during this difficult time. And now I'd like to introduce the Chief Medical Examiner of Ventura County, Dr. Christopher Young.
Good morning, Dr. Young, Chief Medical Examiner for Ventura County.
So they released the suspect, I guess?
The death investigation is also ongoing. The death of this 69-year-old Paul Kessler was admitted to Los Robles Regional Medical Center on November 5th at 15:53 hours. Diagnostic studies at the hospital included a CT scan, which demonstrated intracranial injuries, which included swelling of the brain and hemorrhage surrounding the brain. Mr. Kessler's condition continued to deteriorate, and death was pronounced on November 6th at 1:10 a.m. An autopsy was performed on the morning of November 6th. The autopsy demonstrated non-lethal injuries to the left side of Mr. Kessler's face. Additional injuries included injury to the back of the head. These injuries are consistent with and typical of injuries sustained from a fall. Internal injuries also were consistent with a fall, which included skull fractures, swelling of the brain, and bruising to the brain. The cause of death has been certified as blunt force head trauma. The manner of death is homicide. The manner of death is a medical legal determination. A manner of death of homicide does not indicate that a crime has been committed. This is a determination that is made by the district attorney's office. When a manner of death of homicide is made, it's simply stating that the death occurred at the hands of another person, or the actions of another person contributed to the death of the person. Our hearts and our thoughts are with every individual affected by this tragic event. Thank you.
Now at this time, we will entertain questions, understanding that I'm very limited on what I can discuss based on the investigation itself.
Are you giving the name of the suspect, by the way?
No.
Okay, why
Has
is
the
that?
suspect been booked for any crime at all?
So the suspect has not been arrested. No arrests have been made related to this incident, and the suspect has not been identified publicly.
Sheriff, you mentioned that you want information, you want photos and videos from members of the public. It's important, if we're going to determine a hate crime occurred here, what interactions occurred between Mr. Kessler and the suspect. Can you tell us anything about what witnesses have told you about that interaction?
I can just tell you that the information we're getting is conflicting with one another. There was clearly an interaction between the two, but what that level of interaction is still unclear. That's why we're asking for any video footage that we can have. The one camera angle that I think you have all seen that's from the Shell station is unfortunately blocked by the message board indicating gas prices, and so we cannot see that from that angle. So we're hoping that somebody has video that can help shed some light on what occurred leading up to Mr. Kessler falling, hitting his head. Hang on 1 second, follow-up question, go ahead. We do not have that confirmed. That is something that we're trying to investigate. That it wasn't a statement that had been made, but we do not have confirmation of that at this time.
Given
Yes.
the conflicting reports as to how the fall happened, why did the medical examiner deem it a homicide? It's unclear who the aggressor was.
You want to take that?
So again, the manner of death of homicide doesn't reflect whether or not a crime has been committed. So it just that there's an interaction with another person. So it doesn't, it's not hinging on who's the aggressor. It's just that another individual was involved in partially causing the death.
So you said that, Doctor, you said that the injury to the head was non-lethal. So the lethal injury was the injury to the back of the head, the injury to the face, I should say.
Correct. The injuries on the left side of the face were non-lethal, and the lethal injury was the impact to the back of the head from Mr. Kessler falling and striking his head on the ground.
So is it your belief that this victim was also hit and that caused him to fall? Or was it the hit itself that caused this fatal injury?
Again, this is still under investigation, but there are injuries on the front of the face which could be consistent with a blow to the face.
So to the sheriff, if we may, when you talk about a blow that would cause an individual to fall, is it your contention that the suspect struck the victim and that caused him to fall?
It's my contention that we still don't know that. My contention is that we're still waiting to see evidence of what occurred in that interaction and whether or not there was a blow to the face that caused the fall, or if Mr. Kessler fell without that being the precipitating event.
Sheriff, you mentioned increased patrols around houses of worship. Does this incident change your safety and patrol measures at demonstrations regardless of the size?
No, so we are not changing our protocol. What we do right now is we evaluate every protest on their own merit to determine what we think the threat level is, and then based on that threat level, we determine what resources, if any, need to be there. It's very clear that sometimes when law enforcement does arrive on scene, that we can be a catalyst for additional aggression, and so we try and limit our presence. But if there's already aggression being displayed, then we want to be there to make sure that people are peacefully protesting. In this event, 15 minutes prior to this confrontation, our Thousand Oaks police chief had driven through the area. There was about 30 people present when he had left. There was no indication of impending violence, and so no additional resources were needed. Our patrol staff had been made aware of this protest, and we're driving through frequently to just keep an eye on what was happening. This event was not preventable.
And the suspect you were indicating has been as cooperative as you would expect, as he could be under the circumstances?
It's my understanding that he answered the questions when he was contacted at the scene. I don't know the vetting of all those questions that he answered, but he at least stayed behind. And
Was detained, was that a cooperative?
yeah, to my understanding, yes, cooperative.
What does he say that happened?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that this
Why
time.
did you execute a search warrant at his home?
We're conducting a thorough investigation. We want to make sure we have all the evidence that we need to if we're going to prosecute somebody.
Is he a suspect?
We've identified him as a suspect because as of right now, he's the only one that we have information on that may have been involved in an interaction with our victim. That does not mean there's not others. We're waiting for that information to come out from our residents who were there or any other people who were present. And if they have video of that to indicate there was more than one person involved, we definitely want that information as well.
Sheriff, there was some early reports that the victim may have recorded on his cell phone the interaction before it actually, or as it was unfolding. Do you have any information on that?
I don't have that information at this time.
So you're not looking for the victim's cell phone and video?
It's my understanding our investigators are working on that, and I don't have that information to disclose at this time.
Sheriff, at one point it looked like the two groups were on opposite sides of the street. Did they intermingle at one point, or how did they come in contact?
To be honest, I don't know that information either. I don't know if was one corner or two corners that were occupied by one group, or if they were all commingled the entire time. We don't have that information.
Can you talk a little bit about what that corner has been like, or if there have been previous rallies or demonstrations there, and just give a little bit of color about what that's been like in the past few weeks and previously, because from what I understand, that was a place where there have been some Trump rallies and other sorts of political demonstrations.
Yeah, because of the volume of traffic that's at that intersection, it tends to be a fairly popular intersection to have protests of any number of things. For this conflict that we're facing right now, there had been 3 prior events at this location in Thousand Oaks, 2 at the location. This event would have been the 3rd one at that intersection. We've had 21 protests countywide since October 7th. This was the only one so far that has had some type of violent encounter at all.
Were there permits for?
There's no permits required. This is a First Amendment protected activity, and oftentimes our protesters use the crosswalk to make their voices heard and be seen. And so when you ask about if they're intermingling between sides, they're using their crosswalk to be seen, and so that interaction is likely to occur.
Sheriff, at any point did you recover a megaphone from this suspect?
Do we recover what?
A megaphone?
I don't have information on that. I apologize.
Are there any priors on the suspect?
I'm not at liberty to discuss at this time.
And were there any other confrontations or disturbances between the two groups beyond the normal yelling and against each other?
I don't have any information about any other conflict other than one group who is pro-Israel and one who is pro-Palestine.
As far as physical confrontation?
No, we don't have any indication that there's been any prior physical confrontations between anyone. And as far as both of the organizations that were having their events out there, publicly stated on their social media was to have peaceful protests and to not engage in counter-protests.
Did the suspect and Mr. Kessler, did they know each other in the area that they were met before?
I don't have information if they've met before, if they knew each other prior.
Do you have any information if, in fact, the suspect was carrying a megaphone, or if a megaphone was used to strike the victim?
I don't have that information at this time.
But
I've heard that, and I think the medical examiner has said that the injuries on the face could have been caused by a megaphone, but I don't have the information of what he had on him at the time.
Do you have a sense of the relative size of the two groups? I mean, was there one side that was significantly larger? Some of the videos show that there's maybe more pro-Palestine protesters or demonstrators.
I don't have that information. I apologize.
Sheriff, how much information was the victim able to share with you from the hospital?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that part of the investigation at this time.
Was he able to walk you through what happened and give you something?
I don't have that information this time.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap. 2 more questions.
Sure. Do you have any information on who instigated the altercation?
No, we do not.
Sheriff, you mentioned that
Last question.
that you allocate resources based on an assessment of the threat level. Had you made an assessment prior to this, and how is that assessment?
Yeah, so this assessment was done. We reviewed it, and like I said, everything on social media was this was going to be a peaceful protest, even though we were going to have opposing sides, but we had not had any issues previously. There wasn't any indication that this was anything more than that. So our presence was simply having our patrol officers drive by and monitoring it. And like I said, our chief had drove by because he was aware of it as well, just to make sure that it wasn't turning into something that required more attention. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you.
So there's a lot of different things going on around. And one of the notes that was left behind, I'm going to try to avoid showing too graphic stuff, but in the video, which I think it's too graphic for me to show the video, but he's laying down and there's like a woman, Free Palestine, which she appears to be helping. But then let me show you this picture. This person on Facebook claims, you pull up the caption. This person on Facebook claims that, well, she has a picture of a guy, which she claims as the attacker, and he looks like he's sitting to the side, which I've seen a different picture. And then it says an anti-Israel protester appears to show concern for Paul Kessler by placing a sign she was carrying, which says she's a pediatrician, under his bleeding head. However, minutes later, she can be seen, heard smiling and laughing in a video. And there's another picture that's been circulating. I've seen some other guy that's like masked and covered. I don't know, the hunt is on, I guess, but police already know who the suspect is.
Being taken away on an ambulance after being knocked unconscious. This is the kind of respect these Palestinian protesters are giving.
Stop killing our children now! Stop killing our children now!
As a man being taken away on an ambulance after being knocked unconscious. This is the kind of respect these Palestinian protesters are giving.
Stop killing our children now!
It's getting crazy out there, man. Let's see if they have anything else. The claim is that he got hit over the head with like a megaphone. Crazy. Anyway, yeah, just want to jump on for a little bit, talk about that. Just show that there was a press conference a couple hours ago. Let me see. There's yeah, suspect in Jewish man's death, detained and then released. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna head out, guys. I guess I'll jump on later tonight if there's a chase or anything else. Just want to kind of pop in, kind of try to get myself back into a little bit